The dark history of witch hunts. Thousands of innocent people were executed because of magic. Thousands of innocent people were tortured, imprisoned, and executed. Their crime? Witchcraft. Between the 15th and 17th centuries, Europe experienced one of the most terrifying periods in its history, the witch hunts. Entire villages turned against their neighbors. Friends accused friends. Children accused parents. And a single accusation could mean death. But how did this mass hysteria begin? To understand that, we must go back to medieval Europe. Chapter 1. The Fear of Witchcraft. During the Middle Ages, life in Europe was harsh and unpredictable. Diseases spread quickly. Crops failed without warning. Storms destroyed entire harvests. Without scientific explanations, people searched for supernatural causes. If a cow died suddenly, if a child became ill, if a storm ruined the crops, someone had to be blamed, and often that blame fell on those who were different. Lonely widows, herbal healers, poor women living on the edge of society. People began believing that witches made secret deals with the devil, using dark magic to harm others. Fear spread rapidly across villages and towns. But fear alone did not create the witch hunts. Something else fueled the fire. What happened next shocked Europe. Chapter 2. The book that sparked the hunts. But the book made things far worse. In 1487, a book was published that would change history forever. It was called the Malleus Maleficarum, which means the Hammer of Witches. Written by two inquisitors, the book claimed witches were real and extremely dangerous. It described how witches supposedly worked with demons, how they cast spells, how they harmed communities, but most importantly, the book provided detailed instructions on how to identify, interrogate, and prosecute witches. It encouraged authorities to extract confessions, even through torture. Because of the printing press, the book spread rapidly across Europe. Judges and religious leaders began using it as a guide. Soon accusations of witchcraft began to explode. Chapter 3. The Witch Hunt Panic. By the 1500s and 1600s, witch hunts had become widespread. Thousands of people were accused across Europe. Germany, France, Switzerland, and Scotland became major centers of witch trials. Once accused, the chances of survival were extremely low. The accused were often subjected to brutal tests. One infamous method was the swimming test. The accused person would be tied and thrown into water. If they floated, it meant the water rejected them, proving they were a witch. If they sank, they were innocent, but often drowned. Other victims were tortured until they confessed. Under unbearable pain, many confessed to impossible crimes, flying through the night, casting deadly spells, attending secret meetings with the devil. These confessions only fueled more panic. The accused were usually executed by hanging or burning. Historians estimate that 40,000 to 60,000 people were killed during the witch hunts, and most of them were women. What happened next shocked Europe. Chapter 4. When mass hysteria spread, the fear of witches eventually crossed the Atlantic. In 1692, one of the most famous witch trials began in the American colony of Salem. This event became known as the Salem Witch Trials. It started when several young girls claimed they were possessed by witches. Soon accusations spread across the town. More than 200 people were accused. 20 were executed. But as the panic grew, doubts also began to grow. People started questioning the evidence. Eventually the trials were stopped. But the damage had already been done. But the worst part was still coming. Chapter 5. Why the witch hunts ended. By the late 1600s and early 1700s, attitudes began to change. The Age of Enlightenment introduced new ideas. Scholars encouraged reason and scientific thinking. People started questioning superstition and torture-based confessions. Courts began demanding real evidence. Without fear and superstition driving accusations, witch trials slowly disappeared. By the 18th century, the era of witch hunts had finally come to an end. Conclusion. The witch hunts remain one of the darkest chapters in human history. Thousands of lives were lost. Not because of real crimes, but because of fear, superstition, and mass hysteria. Today, historians study these events as a warning. When fear spreads faster than truth, even ordinary people can become part of something terrifying. And the story of the witch hunts reminds us how dangerous belief can become when it replaces reason. If you found this story fascinating, subscribe for more mysterious stories from history.